Bitcoin has had a significant bullish divergence since the 22nd of August, as it has decreased by 5.9%, while the SP 500 has increased by 0.4% and gold has gained 5.5%. When Bitcoin has been underperforming traditional markets for extended periods of time, historical patterns indicate that it may eventually catch up. The fact that the SP 500 and gold have overtaken Bitcoin at the moment is a clear indication of the fact that Bitcoin is currently experiencing a retracement. Therefore, it is possible that Bitcoin may end up following the general trend, which is something that I believe will certainly occur, particularly in the event that the rate cut is implemented. Again, this is how I personally feel about the matter. As a matter of course, if you take a step back and examine what Bitcoin has been doing, you will notice that it has been achieving all-time highs after all-time highs. Additionally, I want you all to comprehend that when we reached an all-time high in the month of August, you were able to see the shows in blue. You can see that gold was still kind of floating at the bottom, which is something I believe to be the case. If you can look at the SP price, which was in the blue, SP was pretty much kind of necklining what Bitcoin was doing. But gold was actually still stationary, and then it had that parabolic spike. You can see this for yourself as it has increased by 5.5%. It goes without saying that we need to bear in mind what is going on with Bitcoin. Demonstrates a great deal, and it provides us with a somewhat improved viewpoint on how to do an analysis of the market as a whole. Hello and welcome to the CryptoZX channel, where you are a member of the XRP family. All things considered, we are off to a really good start on Friday. This is the case regardless of the circumstances. An upward movement has been observed in the price of Bitcoin. At a price of $2.84, the price of XRP has decreased by around 1.6% in comparison to the value of Bitcoin, and it is getting closer to 170 billion. The trading volume for the 24-hour period is approximately $5 billion. As always, I would want to make it clear that the content on this channel does not constitute any kind of financial advice. When investing in cryptocurrencies, you should always conduct your own research and due diligence before making any decisions. On September 4th, the BlackRock Spot Ethereum ETF purchased 30,450 Bitcoins with a total value of $150 million. Take a look at this. You are still looking at BlackRock coming out and buying Ethereum and Bitcoin exchange-traded funds, ETFs, which tells you that BlackRock is ahead of the curve and that they have been ahead of the curve for a long time. However, if you look at the outflow numbers, you will notice that the outflow numbers were quite large, even though they were still quite large. Remember, however, that XRP is a coin that will truly amaze as the network effect continues to expand and acceptance grows. 50,000 transactions per second with the XRP, which is something that a lot of people overlook, but this article that dates back to 2020 cites. It is clear that this is from Coin and Po 2018, which states that XRP is capable of performing at this speed, whereas Bitcoin is capable of making 7 transactions in Ethereum 14 in a single second. Furthermore, it is important to note that in 2018, it was still in its early stages. It is also important to note that the cryptocurrency market is currently experiencing a bear market. In the beginning of 2018, XRP reached its highest point. You are aware of this fact. On the other hand, these investigations were still taking place at that time. Moreover, throughout that period of time, we did not assess this level of clarity and this level of obviously relevant facts. Research is carried out at an increasing rate as time passes. At the time, we were still in the very beginning stages of the period. It is evident that you need to keep this in mind, but you need also keep in mind demand liquidity. And if you're wondering, XRP is equivalent to Ripple, and the ISO 222 compliant solution ODL will also include RLUSD and Africa. You guys are aware that the next chapter of RLUSD begins in Africa. It is going worldwide. You are aware that RLUSD is going global. And of course, you are aware that in terms of confidence in a stable coin, you are aware that RLUSD is going global. The reason that RLUSD is able to fulfill those requirements is due to the fact that it incorporates regulatory compliance into its operations. In addition, I believe that they executed this in a strategic manner, and the manner in which they released it, RLUSD, is incredible, and the timing was just right, and you are really beginning to see some figures that are completely insane. RLUSD is pulling in a significant number of figures in such a short period of time, and I went ahead and shared the information with you guys. As we move further into the future, this only serves to give me even more reason to believe that RLUSD has the potential to capture a large portion of the stablecoin market. However, keep in mind that, as I mentioned before, the SP index reaches a new record high of 6,500. In addition, as I mentioned before, Bitcoin is essentially remaining unchanged in comparison to it at the moment. Additionally, gold reached a new all-time high. Bitcoin, in my opinion, is going to be the next cryptocurrency. But be sure to check out what Zoom has to say. When you least expect it, things like XRP can explode out of nowhere. I wholeheartedly concur with that. There is a zone at $3.15 that represents the first resistance if the price is broken upward. It is expected that if XRP goes below, there would be a rapid move to the $250 to $260 zone to sweep liquidity. Nevertheless, this would be stimulated to make a move higher. On the other hand, I am extremely positive on the high period. Do not be misled by this. Additionally, I concur with Zoom in general, but I believe that the $3 key barrier is the next significant obstacle that should be retested first. And then I think we could start thinking at the 315 range, however. Take a look at this. You are talking about BlackRock and how they are purchasing before the curve is reached. Is able to view Ripple has announced that executives from BlackRock will be among the high-profile attendees at the upcoming Swell 2025 conference that the company was planning to host. In particular, Maxwell Stein, who serves as the director of digital assets for BlackRock, has been included on the roster of notable speakers at the 2025 Swell Conference. The event will, of course, take place in New York City on November 4th and 5th, 2025. I apologize for the mistake. It is possible for you to observe Stein's participation in Stein or Steen, although I am not sure how to pronounce either of those names. Obviously, there are two different ways to pronounce this word, but it is true that participation in Ripple's next conference has sparked conversations among the XRP community. Numerous individuals are anticipating that he will throw light on BlackRock's viewpoint regarding crypto exchange-traded funds, ETFs, and whether or not an XRP product would be on the horizon. Stein will be joining Rory of Moody's Investor Service, as stated in the official agenda, in order to investigate the ways in which tokenized financial assets are transforming capital markets. There was no indication on the agenda as to whether or not Stein would remark on BlackRock's plans to launch an XRP exchange-traded fund. To provide some background, BlackRock has not yet submitted an application to develop such a product, despite the fact that there is a growing interest among institutions in XRP, as seen by recent ETF filings. At the moment, the asset management solely provides cryptocurrency X. Earlier theory claims that the largest manager in the world avoided investments in XRP because of the case that Ripple and the SEC were involved in. Even after the case was resolved a month ago, BlackRock has maintained that it does not have any imminent intentions to launch an exchange-traded fund ETF for XRP. There is still a lack of clarity around whether or not BlackRock would reconsider their position at the Ripple World Conference. Regardless of whether or not that occurs, there are a few significant, essential takeaways to be gained. As a result of the individuals who are going to be attending this conference, it is inevitable that rumors and speculation will be generated. Nevertheless, we need to put two and two together. Take a look at the topics that they are going to talk about. XRP ledger, tokenized financial assets, and a one-stop store are all things to keep in mind. How seriously do they intend to pursue this? They are not going to simply come and file for an XRP spot ETF out of the blue, because if they do, remember that it is going to have a good impact on the price. I don't know, guys, a part of me feels that, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, BlackRock thinks strategically. I've said this to you guys before. It is only the listing itself. I am not even going to discuss whether or not it has been approved. The listing itself is all that is. Therefore, they are not going to be able to just come out and do that. They are going to use a strategic approach to look at it. On top of that, I believe that they already are. Once more, this is my own personal opinion. I believe that they are already considering XRP. Their awareness of it is really high. They are aware of the statistics, as you may know. Learn what XRP is capable of creating. They have an understanding of the services that Ripple offers. To be honest, I believe that they are already considering XRP, but we will have to wait and see what happens as time goes on. First, let's take a look at the current state of affairs regarding the domination. 587.78% at this very moment, still sitting at, you are aware that 58.7%, as I mentioned before, is currently gaining some pace, and you are aware that Bitcoin is a dominant currency. On the other hand, let's take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is actually having a terrific day, and if you can believe it,